Good evening and welcome to Pain to Power Leading with Love. I am your host, Brown Girl Interrupting, also known as Maria. And I am very excited because I have a wonderful guest here with me today who is going to bring some great elements of her story and telling us how she is leading with love. And in just a few moments, you're going to be meeting the lovely Angel. But before then, I just want to first say a shout out and thank you to my producer, Dialogic, and to the iRant Network and the Ranters Union and family who always shows up as our audience to support, to be in the chat. They are active and here all the time, and I salute to you. As well as I am in association with Better Minds Interrupting. And in just a moment, I think you're going to see it in the chat, but I also the music for this show has been is a original piece by King Titan Music, and his information is in the links in the chat so that you can check him out, check out his link tree, and go and see. He's got a lot of great beats and a lot of great music that you can use on your shows if you have one. So, or whatever you're doing with your music. So, thank you so much again for coming tonight and for being here. I wanted to start us off with just this thought. It's nothing too profound. It's probably something that you've heard before, but I kind of saw it in this format, and I was thinking about it because I've been thinking about it a lot, which is the idea that we hear a lot, this too shall pass, right? Everything will pass at some point, but the wise remind themselves that this too shall pass even when things are good, and the foolish only when things are bad. The importance of that is simply just this: savor every moment for what it is. Appreciate the present. Don't focus on the past or the future. And I know it's not always easy, and it's what I'm working on constantly, but I'm grounding myself to remind myself that every moment is a gift and it's going to pass, just like the good and the bad. So hopefully you're continuing to heal and you are leading with love through your experiences, and you're going to be experiencing how we lead with love here on this show. So thank you for joining us and being on this journey as we build community and build resilience and power in finding our voices and love. So without further ado, I am so excited to introduce my guest today. We are welcoming, please give a big round of applause to welcome Angel Carmel Pendergrass, who is a And she is a social media influencer and a mother and just a beautiful, wonderful soul with a voice that will just get you. So I welcome Angel. It is so great to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much, Maria. It is absolutely my pleasure. I am just in love with your content as well, and I love your title, Brown Girl Interrupting. Love it.
Thank you very much. And soon we're going to be hearing about your title, which is Conversations with Angel. And I'm excited to get there. But before we do, I invited you here because I am, as many of you might have noticed, I'm a little bit of a TikTok stalker, and this is how we get our guests. So if you like my strategy, that's what it is, and this is how we get folks on here. Is I find folks that intrigue me, and I mean, as you can already see, Angel's voice will draw you in no matter what, but also her messages and her ideas and her resilience is what I have really appreciated. So I brought you here because of all of those things, and I want to know more about you and help our audience, as well as hopefully your audience, learn more about who you are and what has brought you to what you're doing. So first off, let's just start with, what are you doing in this social media world? And then we're going to get into a little bit more.
Sure. So, it's really funny. I started out like most people, particularly in my age group, with Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, the usual suspects. And last January, when I turned 49, my daughter, who is 20, said, "Mom, you're going through a lot. You should get on TikTok because it is an amazing platform. There's some really good stuff on there. And I was like, Tick who? What is a TikTok? This was 2001. So I said, I don't know anything about that. I don't want to get on any more social media. As a matter of fact, I'm probably just going to shut down my Facebook page and Instagram. And I was going through a divorce, as you know, and I was just like, ah. And so she took my phone, she created a profile, she downloaded it, created a profile, and just said, Mom, just watch. You have to have a profile to watch. Just watch some of the videos. And I tell you, Maria, it was amazing because there were days when all I wanted to do was cry. All
Mm.
I wanted to do was cry. I was so hurt, so broken. And the more content that I watched, there are some amazing creators that made me laugh until I laughed and I cried from laughter. And then there were some amazing creators that just had just powerful messages for women and powerful messages for men. And then August came, and I had 2 followers and no videos. And so I decided, I said, well, you know what? I think I'm going to post some pictures. So I called my daughter and I was like, show me how to post pictures. So she came home from college and showed me how to post some pictures. And I was just like, I want to say something. I think I have something to say. And she was like, well, what do you want to say? And I said, I don't know, but I want to say something. And so I went on a live, amazing content creator, Cowie's Corner, and he was talking about men's mental health, and I was like, gosh, I really like his message. I really want to say something to him. And so I sent him a message. I followed him, I sent him a message, and I said, I want to do a live with you. And he was like, who are you? My
So
name's
you
Angel.
TikTok stalk too, right?
My name's Angel Carmel. What do you mean? And he was like, you have 2 followers, lady. And I was like, okay, I'll be back. So in 3 weeks, I had the followers that I needed. I started putting out content about my story, and the rest is history. It just happened
Mm.
just like that.
I love it, but that's such an amazing story, and because I like okay, so what I think is hilarious, and people don't know this, but you're going to learn this, is that she just told you she needed to ask her daughter to get photos on. She had no idea what TikTok was, right? She now has been while we are in this process, before we even started this show, was talking to her moderator on TikTok to get all of her thousands of followers to come here. So just imagine from where you were to where you are. What a drastic shift, but like that's a beautiful
Yes.
thing, and that is the idea. I want to say shout out to Brooklyn Honcho. This is what I've been waiting for. Brooklyn Honcho, thank you for coming and joining us and pulling up our Ranters fam. We'll always be here in support, and we are so excited to have you here. So I'm going to backtrack us a little bit because you mentioned the idea of how you were in this really difficult place. And so the show is called Pain to Power Leading with Love. And I always think that everyone looks at life and how they move through it so differently from their own vantage points and perspective. So when you think of the idea of taking pain and turning it into power, what does that mean to you?
Wow. Um, you know, pain is actually a good thing. Pain is a good thing because what it is, it strengthens you. You can't have a testimony without a test. You cannot speak about God's grace of feeding those that are hungry and them being full if they were never hungry. You can't speak about being blessed in your home if you've been never been homeless. So I believe that pain to power means that in order for me, in order for me to be in this space, getting getting the message that I have to women about femininity, and then hearing the voices of men. As you know of my content, I am an advocate for men, especially men that just want to be loved. And so, in order for me to have gotten to that point, I had to be grateful for the pain of a very painful marriage. I had to be grateful for the struggles that I had, because I wouldn't have been here. I would not have
Mm.
been here. So I think it's strength. And one of my trainers told me that, when you don't try in the midst of your pain, you can't wait until you're painless. You have to try to be powerful in the midst of your pain, because you'll appreciate it that much more.
Mm.
So that's what it means to me.
I love that, and that's beautiful. And I see our Ranters Network is agreeing. What's up, Kennedy Williams? Thanks for being here, of course, always. And yeah, like pain is a good thing. What a shift of a perspective, right? And Logic says, I heard that. Yeah, it really is, right? Because that ability to shift that perspective allows you to move through it, right? Too, because you can
Absolutely.
see it as a gift of something to learn from rather than something that is this bad thing that is breaking you. So how do you
Absolutely.
build from that? How do you create power? And that's a beautiful thing. But it sounds like you obviously had to go through some things to get there. And I wanna get into that because as I was
Sure.
telling you a little bit before, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a blogger, and I actually just this week wrote a new post called "When You Know, You'll Know." And for me, it was the story of when I knew and understood, and kind of this connection between this idea is that you just one day know when you're done with something, when it's not suiting you anymore. And so I would like to know for you, if you can give us a little background of what your marriage was and when you knew. What was it for you when you knew?
Wow. So, as you know, I was married twice. So my first marriage, I was young, 25 years old when I got married, too young to even think about getting married. And my first husband is the father of my now 20-year-old. And in that marriage, it was extremely volatile. There was just a lot of it took me away from home, and so I didn't heal properly from that first marriage. And then, from the time that my daughter was 2 years old till she turned 7, it was just her and I. And I had pretty much given up on love. I didn't think that I was worthy of being a wife, just because of the decisions that I made in my first marriage. And so I met my second husband after I thought that I was prepared. But one of the things that really hit home for me is that preparation is only as good as the outcome. If you don't prepare properly, then you're not going to have an ideal outcome. And so my preparation wasn't proper. And when I say that, meaning I didn't ask the right questions, I didn't get all the facts. And I speak more of my second marriage because, for out of respect for my daughter, there was just a lot of volatility and baggage with my first marriage. With my second marriage, um, I was a first lady of a church, and being in the Southern Black church, having that role has its own ministry in and of itself.
Mm.
And what I realized when the marriage was broken, when it really started to fall apart, when I realized that this just wasn't for me, I left in 2018, left the home, took my daughter with me. There was a lot of trauma, emotional trauma that was there, to the point where I began to hoard, like the television show. I was spending, buying things to replace the pain of being in an unfulfilling relationship. Then, when I decided that it was time for me to leave, I still wasn't quite where I needed to be. It was kind of like the story of the dog that's sitting on the porch that has been stuck to an old rusty nail, and there's a man that walks by every single day that hears the cries of the dog every single day, crying, crying, until it got the best of him, and he asked the old man on the front porch, why is this dog crying every day? I walk to the bus stop and he's crying over and over. And the man tells him he's sitting on an old nail. And the man was like, well, why don't you pick him up? Why don't you pick the dog up? What do you mean? And he says, well, it doesn't hurt him bad enough. So he sits there. And so when the pain gets to the point where you as an individual understands when it hurts bad enough. So then I went back into the marriage after being separated. I tried it again because the pain wasn't enough. But then I realized, I had that aha moment, that as I was trying to repair a marriage by myself that wasn't whole, the pain became unbearable. And I got up off that rusty nail and I started a new life for myself. We got divorced last year, and though it was painful to go through that process, it was also liberating. I used
Mm.
to say that I'm healing. I don't want to date again. I'm healing. But then I divorced the word healing. I said, no more. I'm not healing because I'm already healed. What I'm doing now is evolving. And so now I'm moving into my evolution. And if that's TikTok, then so be it. That's what it is.
I love that. That is beautiful. Josh says you used to preach at Green Lake.
That is one of my favorite shows, actually.
That is funny. Wow. I mean, and that's a whole nother story, I'm sure, in itself to talk about the
Yes.
ministry and the details of that. We're not going to go
Yes.
there now, but I think that, I mean, the number of things you just lifted up, like I need to elevate some of these pieces. Like, first off, just the fact that you are able to identify these challenges, right? Like this, you said that like you knew that you didn't ask the right questions and you weren't prepared, and then you recognized that your hoarding was some of the things that were, it was this displacement of this emotion that you were really feeling and the pain you were really feeling. And I just have to say that that has like, I am banking that entirely, the idea of it's no longer healing, it's evolving, because that is
Yes.
what it is, right? When you
That's what it
identify
is.
that I know what I'm healing, I know I'm doing the work for it. Now I'm just evolving. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful, liberating thing to say. So I appreciate that. Jal Logic says it's also amazing that she still wants to empower the men. Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
And and let me tell
Absolutely.
y'all, the men are listening. The men are listening to Angel. I have been on some of those lives and they cannot wait. And look, I know that they probably come for the voice and the beauty, but you pull it further because they stay. And
Yes.
that's the power. So I think it's one thing to be a beautiful woman and to speak, with a lovely tone, but people stay because of what you say, because of the impact that you make and the way
Yeah.
that you make them feel. And that's the power. And it's important to recognize that, because
Absolutely.
that comes from a place of evolving, of knowing
Yes.
yourself, right? So I would imagine that 3 years ago you might not have had that same level of power, just in yourself, not over others, but just in yourself, right? Do
No,
you see that
absolutely.
difference?
Absolutely, because again, when you go through a divorce, when you go through separation, when you sever even a relationship, it takes two people to get into a relationship, and it takes two people to end. Even if you feel like the other person contributed more to the demise, one of the things that I had to learn was to take accountability for things that I was blaming him for that I actually contributed to. And so
Mm.
when I started to take a mental inventory of those things and writing them down, I realized that I was leading many instances with masculine energy. I used the fact that I was, a higher wage earner. So I came across very bossy. So I had to make sure that I communicated those things out loud. I had to put it into the universe and say, Angel, you did do this. You did do
Mm,
this. You are
mm,
responsible for this. So now with my platform, I'm using my voice to be a voice for men who find themselves in that same type of relationship with women who are trying to be masculine or be men without using their
mm,
feminine energy. It's our superpower. It's what we actually use to get men to do what we want them to do for the betterment. And there is a such thing as godly femininity, goddess femininity, and wounded femininity. And so,
mm,
what I like to communicate to the men is to be able to recognize godly femininity, because goddess femininity, though good for the exterior, it's also used to manipulate, and that's not what I want them to lead. I want men to lead women who have godly femininity, and to be able to speak to the little girl inside of her to heal the wounded femininity.
mm, That is so powerful. And yes, like I think that exactly that is the femininity that women and it's the power that comes from it because it's almost releasing a power. I completely understand what you're saying, and I write about it a lot in this idea of really
Yes.
masculine energy that powerful women exude. And I would say I'm probably one of those women, so I recognize everything you're saying. And I think those pieces of recognizing those parts of yourself are so powerful and important in being able to evolve in a healthy way.
Yes.
Because we can obviously evolve in many ways. Evolution doesn't always go the right way, right?
Right.
Like that's important to
Exactly.
recognize. But the vulnerability piece is really key because I think that, and this goes for the men that are looking at women who are in these processes, but also for women who are trying to get to that place for themselves. I would say that vulnerability in not just sharing your pain, but that vulnerability in recognizing your ownership in the cause of your
Absolutely.
pain. Whether that be that you allowed something within your space because you didn't speak up, or that you created something in your space because maybe you spoke up too much, right?
That
Like,
part. Absolutely.
I could
Absolutely.
I get it. I get it. Yes, yes. So this has all led you to conversations with Angel. So let's talk a little bit more about these conversations and what exactly is is the goal of them, and like what does it mean when you say conversations with Angel in your mind? What does that mean to you, and what are you doing with this? And I see a lot of your Angel fans are in here, so I want to give them a shout out.
Oh,
Purpose and
really?
resilience, since Angel is changing lives. I see
Oh,
Joseph Goss says Angel is amazing. I see these are probably some
Angel.
familiar friends. So welcome to all of our TikTok
Thank
followers. Please
you.
make sure to subscribe to this channel also and follow me while you're here. Brown
Yes,
Girl
that's right.
Interrupting. And
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Brooklyn Honcho. Yes, follow Angel, follow me. We are here because we are
Yes.
all about helping everyone heal, the women and the men. So, conversations with Angel. Did you start these conversations with the goal of reaching men in your communication, or was it just overall audience?
So I started with overall audience because again, I didn't know what TikTok was. I just when I was able to go live, my first live was with content creator Carrie, and we talked about, gosh, I think we were talking about relationships or something. And I said, I love this. I love these conversations with Angel. Um, and he was like, yeah, he's like, that's pretty catchy. And I was like, you know what? I want to have another conversation, and I want other people to have conversations. And so the next week, I just put my topic as have a conversation with Angel, talk about whatever you want, ask me anything. And I was so disappointed because When I first went on, there were only 5 people in. But then the conversation was so powerful. And we talked about healing and how to heal after divorce. And so there was
Mm.
two creators on there that said, "Hey, are you gonna do this again? Are you gonna have another conversation with Angel? This is fun." And so the next day, I think I titled it again, in my topic, "Conversation with Angel," and there was 30 people on. So those 5 people told apparently 5 people. And then the next week, there were 100 people in my live. And so I was like,
Wow.
this is Conversations with Angel. That's what I'm going to call the podcast on TikTok. And it's been a thing ever since. And the men element came into play because one of my probably largest lives on TikTok was me talking to men, and I call it Conversations with Angel Guys Night Out. And
Mm.
I only allowed men to come into the box. And I said,
Okay.
"Tell me what you want women to know." And the men were just coming in, and they need to stop doing this and you need to stop doing that. And I kind of moderated that conversation, but really that space, because what they were saying, I saw myself. I put a mirror up and I saw me.
Mm.
But then I went past me and I saw their pain. And I said, well, what can I say to the ladies? And I'm thinking, I've done etiquette workshops, I've talked about femininity. That's what they need. They want a woman to be softer, they want to be heard. There are statistically, men are 3 times more likely to commit suicide than women. That's a fact.
Mm.
There are men that are sitting in their driveways because they don't want to go into the house because they believe and they experience hell on the other side of the door. So what can I do to be a voice for them? Speak to women. I'm a woman. And so my audience started growing. 90% of my audience are men, but the women are coming because guess what the men are doing? They're sending my TikToks, they're sending my lives to their girlfriends, to their wives, to their mothers. And they're
Mm.
saying, "Hey, listen to what she's saying, what I've been trying to tell you, but it's not gonna be received coming from a man per se. It's gonna be
Mm.
received coming from another woman." And so I want to get those men out of the driveway. I want them to be excited to walk in the house. But I want those women to start meeting that man at the door with his button down shirt on and her stilettos and like, "Hey honey, how day? What can I get you some ice water?"
Yes, right. And when you can fall into your feminine, you will get all of that from a woman,
All of
right? That is it, right? We're
all
looking
of that.
for the man who creates the space where we can show up in our stilettos, right? Like that's it. Uh,
Exactly.
but the beauty of that is that it is that everyone is doing the work together simultaneously. It's not one or the other. And oftentimes I think that's what we get caught up in is that men are saying that women have these issues and that's what it is. A lot of TikTok is this. It's this back and forth of women complaining about men and men complaining about women. And I agree. I think for me it's like where do we find this bridge? What's the bridge? Because everyone wants to be in a healthy good relationship. I mean, not everyone, but I think
Absolutely.
most people do, right?
Absolutely.
The ones who actually do, right? And but and there's just it's like we don't always speak the same languages. We don't always understand the same things and we're so caught in our own perception of the world that just in general, people don't see other people's points of view, right? So we have to get outside ourselves and we have to see other perspectives to understand that ours is only a lens. It's not the truth.
Right.
And that's powerful and
Right.
that's important, right? Because then you give space to grow and evolve together. So that's a beautiful thing, though. I love that you just said that people are sending them to their wives, and I think this to me is really big because I've had so many men on this show, who have talked about, and I told you I had my first interview was with Meme King for Real, who's
Me
someone you
too.
follow, and
Yes.
and then I had Self Love Speaker, and I've had the Bird Brain podcast creator Isaiah Frizzell, and all of these men have a lot of women followers, but not as
Yes.
many men. So
Right.
it was seeming like this message of it was kind of only going to the women. It was going to the women, but I love that you're bringing men into these conversations to honestly reflect and own what they need to think about, but at the same time helping them to see what they might not be seeing about women in their lives, because again,
Absolutely.
it's not a tit for tat. It's not a one over the other. It's simply just that we all need to learn how to communicate better. That's life,
The
right?
bottom line. That's the bottom line, and accountability. If we
Yes.
can accept accountability in our communication and communicate, people say communication is key, but communication is important if it's understood communication. And for women, for us, we use 2-3,000 words a day, whereas men use 200 to 300 words. And
Hmm.
so in our communication, oftentimes we are listening and not hearing. And so God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we listen to respond. But what I want us as women to focus more on doing is listening to understand
Oh.
and listening to hear. And oftentimes, when we give men the opportunity to speak, we're already, okay, this is what I'm going to say when he said this. And so then we miss that next sentence. And then, oh, he said so. Oh, yeah, let me go back. But I remember the last time. And so then when we're in dialogue, then we say, well, what about me? Well, what about? And so then it muzzles a man. He shuts down because at that point, he doesn't feel like he's being heard. And then what
Mm,
happens is he stops communicating. And then we
yeah.
say, why don't you talk to me? I want you to listen. I want you to hear me. Instead of us saying, okay, I want to hear you.
Like it's church right here, right now. Ja is all into it. He got the Holy Spirit, and you are preaching, preaching. Yes, yes. But that is so powerful. I think we like a lot of women are. They're waiting just to tick off their checklist of here's what I actually wanted to say. Right? I only
Yes.
opened the floor for you to have your mouth open, but really, I'm just waiting to say what I need to say and get it in there and get you to hear me, and that's it. And so many women do that, right? Shanpi, welcome. Shanpi says that you caught the Holy Spirit. Wow, right? So that's it. Like that power of listening to understand. We
Yes.
often
Yeah.
do listen to
Mhm.
respond. And I like the point you made about this idea is that we talk so much about communication, but the truth of the matter is if you're communicating and you're not listening to anything, then it doesn't really matter. So it's really the
Doesn't matter.
comprehension. It's
Yes.
comprehension over communicate. It's the
Yes.
what's communicated being comprehended. And if it's not, because one, you're not listening, or two, you're coming with your own perspective, and so you don't see someone else's point of view, it's going to
Absolutely.
limit the communication. It's going to limit the
Absolutely.
ability to truly communicate. And we see it
Absolutely.
all the time,
Every
all the
day.
time, every day. And we've witnessed and experienced it. And I was imagine, from what you've said, right? I'm divorced as well as of,
Mhm.
and for me, it is a celebration. So I'm going to say I'm very happily divorced as of December, but I was separated 4 years ago. And actually we're about to see a commercial, a little bit more talking about that in just a moment. But I think that has a big an impact on what we learn about the importance and the need for communication when you've been in an
Yeah.
experience where it wasn't effective and it didn't work.
Mm.
So take a moment and check out my commercial on the blog that I have created. That is the start. Hi, my name is Maria, but you are soon going to know me as Brown Girl Interrupting. And what I mean by that is that very soon, hopefully, you're going to be following my blog. I am a writer, and I started writing because I was married, I had children, and then my life changed when I separated. And I did a lot of learning and reflecting and growing in that process of change because change always leads us to that. And I've decided to share that with the rest of the world, because sometimes hearing that someone else is going through the same thing as you, or understanding and putting words to the feelings and experiences we're having, helps us to heal from them, or grow from them, or learn from them. And so that's what my blog is. It's writing about life, healing, relationships, parenting, dating, marriage, pain, love, mistakes, growth, and coming out whole still in all of it as a human, flawed, but always open to new things. So that's my life, that's my journey, and it's written in this blog. But my hope is that you are going to go to www.browngirlinterrupting.com and join and subscribe to the blog and read all about my story to help you maybe gain some perspective on yours. Right, thank you. Yes, and please, you see it right up there. Go to www.browngirlinterrupting.com. Please go subscribe right away. Put your email in. And just as a quick one, because Angel just told me this, because she subscribed, and many of you maybe already did subscribe, please take me out of your spam. I think I end up in people's spam. It's not intentional, I don't think. But
No.
take me out of your spam, because you're missing some amazing posts that I have been creating that talk about all of these same experiences. And my most recent one that just went out this week is called "When You Know, You'll Know," and it was spurred from the fact that many people do come, and I'm sure this happens to you too, Angel. Is they come and they ask, "How did you know when it was time to leave?" Because that's a tough moment, right, to know that. But just as you shared, right, it's like, when that pain is so great that you can no longer
Cancel.
take it, right? And
Mhm.
the universe will tell you. The universe will tell you, and you will know. And then you make the step. So if you want to know more about my journey and just in general how to heal from all these things, please go check out my blog, because I write about it. I write about marriage, relationships, dating, parenting, healing, spirituality, all of it in a nutshell. And speaking of which, so you've talked a lot about just you were married to a
Mhm.
minister, a preacher,
A pastor.
a
Mhm.
pastor. So I apologize.
Mhm.
My knowledge of Christianity is limited. I'm brown girl, which I was raised in a Muslim home, so I have very little.
Gotcha.
So I apologize for
Yeah,
not knowing all the
that's okay.
terminology. But I think it sounds like that for everybody, spirituality and faith has a different role in their lives. But I would ask for you, it could have turned you off, right? It could have been such a damaging relationship with faith from that, I would imagine. But what is it that keeps you in your faith? Like, what allows you to continue to do this evolving and this ability to take your pain and turn it into power constantly?
So it's two part. I'm also a PK, which is stands for a preacher's kid. My
Oh,
dad's
okay.
a
Okay.
preacher, and so I had a very strong foundation in my belief system with my parents who are still together, still married, and so the foundation was always there. And so I knew I had an amazing example with my dad and with my parents on marriage. And then my daughter, my daughter, I used to say my daughter is my world, but I realized that your children can't be your world because they grow up and they leave. And so if I put that all of that energy into her being my world, then when she's gone, my world will crumble.
Mm.
So I say that because she is the most important person that gives me unconditional love, I knew that I had to get past and be whole again because of her. And in spite of my situation, my faith that now I have to lay a foundation for her. So it's not about me. It's about
Mm.
her, and making certain she had the luxury of a very strong, solid foundation through me, through her grandparents. And so it's me setting an example. And then thirdly, it would be, the audience of followers, that I now have been tasked to present an example and to live my life out loud by being transparent. And many times you are the only Bible that someone will ever read. So I don't want them to read the wrong words if they're looking at me. I want them to
Mm.
to read the right words. So if I'm going to be the only Bible that someone reads, then I've got to read it for myself and present that and be that type of person to lead them to know God for themselves. So it was hard going back to church, but I think one of the things that helped me, was I moved, I relocated, to Charleston. So I'm not even in the same area that I was in before. Then I needed to have that covering. And so the first time I went back into church, it was much later after I had left my husband because of COVID, because churches
Mm.
were closed. So
Mhm.
I kind of did that whole internet worship. And coincidentally, I found an amazing church with an amazing pastor here in Charleston. And I joined virtually online. I decided to become a member. And just really quickly, when I did my new member orientation, it was supposed to be the pastor and his staff, the new ministry member, minister, the deacon that was supposed to be my guide, and his wife, the deacon. It's supposed to be this slew of people. And because it was a fifth Sunday, the other people forgot. But I like to say God made them not be there. And it was just me, the pastor, and his wife. And so
Mm.
they asked me tell me a little bit about yourself. And so then I felt compelled to tell these two strangers who'd never met me, because we were still in a virtual space. I told them my entire story: first marriage, what happened there, second marriage, the whole. And so he was like, wait a minute, you are first lady for how many years? Oh, no, you're not like a regular member. We have to take you in a very special, unique way. And they took me up under their wings and helped me to heal from the church hurt. Because you have to remember, my covering
Mm.
was my husband, who, and he and I were in a volatile place. So then the trust of the person that was supposed to cover me was gone. So then, of course, the church trust was gone.
Mm.
But God. And so now I have this amazing relationship with my pastor and his wife. And she was like, can you mentor me in certain things? And I was like, well, no, I'm not a first lady anymore. But but it's just been amazing to have that relationship. So I could never turn my back on a God who never turns his back on us.
Mm. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think because so much of sometimes this pain place that we're in, the first thing that we're angry with is God and faith, right? Like I think because that if you when you think of pain as something bad, then you think something has been done to you, than
Yes.
rather been done for you. And
Right.
and
Right.
that can shake your faith. That actually is interesting because today I literally had a conversation at the playground with a couple of mothers, and we were talking about spirituality and this idea of when you question faith and where that puts you,
Right.
right? And Josh says,
Mhm.
"Yes, God bless the woman and her ministry." Thank you. Yes,
Thank
and that's
you.
a beautiful story, and thank you for sharing and for that vulnerability. So along those lines, I mean, you've learned so much. It sounds like through this whole process,
Yeah.
and your change, like what are some things that you have discovered and understood about yourself in terms of your strength that you didn't realize you had, and also your challenges that you didn't accept maybe at one point in your life that now you're able to see clearly?
Yeah. Oh, that's an excellent question. So I'll start with the challenges. Um, One of the challenges that I'm starting to accept is the fact that I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. I'm an accountant by profession, and so everything has to fit very carefully. The circle has to fit in a circle, the square has to fit in a square. And life isn't always that way. And I used to, and I still to a certain degree get bogged down in the minutia and the mundane details. And so I've allowed myself grace in that area. And we don't do that enough.
Yeah.
And so I've accepted that flaw, and so how can I build upon that? What areas of my life can I use the stroke of my paintbrush to color outside of the lines? It's okay to color outside the
Mm.
lines, Angel. And so I remind myself of that. um a lot of things that has happened even since being on this TikTok journey is to listen, not to respond. Because again, I was one of those women, and it's a good and a bad thing for a woman to have masculine energy. I'm in a male dominated industry as an accountant. Before that, I was within parks and recreation, male dominated as an accountant there. But prior to that, the transit system in Charlotte, male dominated industry.
Mm.
So I had to go in to, because I had a seat at the table, always being on the executive leadership team. I was the one female in the room that the notebook and pen was passed to at meetings to take minutes. So very quickly, I had
Mm.
to say, I've got a seat at this table. You take the minutes. Just because
Right.
I'm a woman, I'm supposed to? No. So that
Mm.
masculine energy I have to use in order to be heard at the table. But
Mm.
when I need to use my feminine energy, even at work, I know how to do that. And
Mm.
so when God says it's time for you to be in a fulfilling and loving relationship, now I've learned how to disconnect. And I think a lot of successful professional women, we all have it in us. We have that feminine energy inside of us. So we've got to fill ourselves up with that balance. So we've got to have a scale so that we know how much weight to put on the masculine energy and when
Mm.
to lift and let the feminine energy when we go home, so that the man is driving way past the speed limit to get home because he knows that he's got a soft
Mm.
woman so that he can be vulnerable to. Men are not being vulnerable to women because we're not allowing them, because we're being too hard. And so we've got to shut that work life off and still be strong for him. And when you do, you'll get whatever it is you need to get from him. And so that's part of my strength, is to be able to embrace that part of me and recognize the balance. When I need to move in masculine energy, I will. When I need to move in my feminine energy, which is 80% of the time. And it's not about just, hair and makeup and the right clothing. It's not that, it's a state of mind.
Mhm.
Masculine energy is about doing, feminine energy is about being. And so teaching women that balance is my purpose.
Yes, Josh, she has not told one lie at all. I completely agree. And you know what I love about what you said, and it's funny because I don't think I thought this, but when we first started this conversation, but as I'm listening to it, I think the thing is that we as women sometimes put that too much pressure on the men to make us feel that femininity. And the truth of the matter is, because I hear what you're saying, because I'm not in an executive level, but I lead. I'm a coach. I definitely do a lot of leadership. I
Yes.
facilitate things. So I know that like I am partnered with a lot of men, right? So that I end up doing a lot to make
Yes.
sure and I didn't realize it was perfectionist in me, but it is, right? But what I've learned is that even in that space, allowing for a little softness creates that opportunity for even the men that you're working with, right, to hear you, because
Yeah.
then you're not just coming at them, right? Like you recognize, like, whether it's with levity. For me, it's jokes. I'm a jokester. Like, I'm a total, like, I will crack a joke in the most serious of moments to create levity, right? Like, that is just who I
Right.
am. And but it's also the encouragement, the validation, right? Like, and I think those are the things that are part of femininity that we're unwilling to give. We're unwilling to say, hey, you actually did this really well. And that little bit, like telling a man, or telling people in general, not just men, but
Mhm.
telling people, right, that you appreciate them, creates a softness in your relationship with them, right?
Yeah.
Because now I trust you. Now I feel safe with you because you see me. You see
Yes.
who I am and you value that. And I think that
Absolutely.
the flip side of that is that so much of what women want is simply to have that from the men they're with. See who we are,
Absolutely.
value it, and then take the lead so that we can lean back and just receive and be taken care of. And we do get to, especially strong-willed women, right? You get
Yes.
to say, oh, thank you. And Ja says, you executive produce your show, BG. I do. Thank you. Thank you, Ja. I appreciate that. That is true. I am the executive producer of this show. I have created a lot of things, but at the same time, I believe and want to be in my feminine more than ever. Like, I
Yeah.
do, and I build and
Yeah.
I grow and I wake up with ideas, and I'm one of those creative, those workers. I'm a hard fucking worker, right? But
Yes.
but what I would prefer is to have the relaxation mindset of being on a beach with a tropical drink, right? Like that.
Right.
If I could live my life in that mindset where even in
Mm.
intense moments, I am at peace in the moment I'm in, whether it be with my children, with if I had a significant other,
Right.
or
Right.
or with friends, right? Whatever it is, or even on a show, right? So this show
Mhm.
is just that for me. It is that
Absolutely.
connection, it is the softness, it is the community. And that is a driver in life for all of us. So when men can be softer and women can be softer, we all are learning and growing and becoming better. And that's what this
Yes.
is. It's about
That's exactly
evolution
right.
to be better.
Evolution.
Evolution. I am so taking that with me now. Like,
Take
once
it.
I
Take
hear
it.
something and it clicks, it clicks. So yes, it is. It is all about evolution and evolving.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so I'm curious to know, in conversations with Angel, have you
Yes.
had any moments where there have been like topics that come up that are harder to get people to hear and understand, and you tend to get a little bit more pushback? Like, what are some of those topics? Maybe for the men particularly, I'm curious to know, like, what do men struggle with actually understanding and being willing to hear?
So it's funny that you would say that. And, on TikTok, you could do promo videos leading up into. So
Mhm.
I wanted to have a show about men's health, mental and physical health. And I knew just even with my dad, that's a sore topic for men,
Mm.
particularly single men. Statistics show that married men tend to live longer. It's not because of anything in their physicality, it's because they've got a woman that's making sure they're going to the doctor and doing all
Yes,
those things.
yes.
And so I even put on a little sexy nurse's outfit, and I encouraged the men to come. And I titled it, I Want Your Body. And so
Ooh!
when I first went live, it was like 250 men in the
Right,
room,
because
and
I
a
want
lot
your body
younger.
and a nice nurse's set, right?
Yeah,
Like, you brought them. You brought them all
yeah.
there.
So I had on, I think the night of the live, I think I wore like red, and I had on red lipstick and all of this. And as I started talking about the importance of men getting colonoscopy and men getting their
Mm.
blood pressure and having annual physicals, my numbers started going down, down. I started fussing. I said, see,
Oh.
if I do something sexy or talking about relationships and sex and orgasms and all this stuff, I have hundreds of people in my life. I think the numbers had gotten down to like 60. But I was like, you know what? I'm still going to trudge on and talk about this very important topic because men are dying younger and
Mm.
younger and younger. And so I got a lot of pushback from the men. They were like, we thought that you were going to pick one of us to have our body. And I was like, no, I want you to go to the doctor. So that particular one. And then I did another one called Mean Girls. And
Mm.
in that live, I talked about women and how mean we can be, and even
Mm.
the cyberbullying that we do. Now, that one, it was a pretty large number on the live because, again, my following are majority men, but there are a lot of women in that live. And I told them about even my experience in high school of being a bully. I was a bully. I was the epitome of that movie with my clique. I was a cheerleader. My boyfriend was a captain of the football team, and we picked on people that didn't look a certain way, didn't dress a certain way. And the trauma that I caused this one particular young lady who tried to commit suicide because of
Mm.
my bullying and my girlfriends, my little clique. And so I told that truth to get people to come out and understand the pain in bullying and that adult women are bullying one another
Mhm.
because you don't have content that's pleasing to this woman, or you want to talk about a woman's hair and all this, and it just all of those things. And it was a very emotional, it was a very hard conversation to have, but
Mm.
I continued on with it, and I said, we're going to talk about this, we're going to call it out, and we're going to stop being mean. And then I talked about how mean we can be to men. Just
Mm.
because you're not interested in a guy, if a guy comes up to you and speaks to you, for God's
Mm.
sakes, put a smile on your face and speak back. You don't have to be a bitch about it. So
Yeah.
that was a great, great, great show. But it was hard. It was
I,
hard.
I love that though, but that's like, you know what, calling women out on their things is so important. It's funny because I'm
Absolutely.
navigating this with my 5-year-old daughter right now because Mean Girl stuff starts early.
Very.
Early, and there's a lot of signs and things that, and it's so bad that I've seen so many nieces and so many friends' daughters that have gone through, like, the level of bullying is so intense for girls right now that it is important, because if you're an adult woman who's doing that, you better bet that your children are watching that behavior and
And
they're
doing it.
picking up on it, and they are emulating it, right? So, like, that's serious, right? And being a mean girl is not, there's nothing glorious about it. There's
There's
nothing
nothing,
glorious about it. It's
nothing.
actually really obnoxious and unnecessary, right? Like,
Yes,
it is
very.
truthfully like a, I don't know, and I think the thing that triggered me, what you said about this idea of the mean being mean to men so often, right? So Joss says, I need to know what she thought about the infamous Will Smith smack. Oh, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there for sure. Okay, I gotta ask this question, but I want to say that this meanness to men is so important, because I think, like, that's the thing in dating, because what happens, and I don't know if women figured this out yet, but when your nastiness goes to a good guy, you then leave a mark where he is now going to be nasty to another good woman. Like, you have fucked it up,
Absolutely.
honestly, for, sorry, I'm
Uh,
cussing all over the place today, and I
Definitely.
apologize for my language,
No,
preachers.
I said I
Like,
dropped a couple of words too.
like, but that's the freaking, that's the truth, right? Like, I think honestly,
Absolutely.
I so many women have damaged men that, because of their own insecurities, and
That.
really, mean girl comes from insecurity, and I don't know if that's
Yes.
what you notice about yourself, is that maybe why you were, and I'll be honest, I was on the other end of it. I was always the one picked on, always. Always, like, that is my history. But but I think for that reason, I'm not a mean girl, because I think for me, like, it's not like, it's about kindness. Like, just be kind to people. You know, a guy
Yeah.
takes his effort to reach out to you. I'm never going to be an asshole. But I mean, I'm not going
Right.
to accept everybody's offer, but I'm never going to be an asshole to you, unless
And
if you're an
you don't
asshole
have
to
to.
me.
Right,
Unless
right,
if
right.
unless if you deserve it, and that's different. That's it. Like, let's be clear. Let's be clear.
Right.
Everybody has
But
their
most
boundaries.
aren't. Yeah,
But
most aren't.
but
Yeah.
most aren't, right? Someone shoots their
Yeah.
shot, they shoot their shot. Like, you know, so I totally agree with that. Okay, so coming back to Ja's question, and I did see some other folks in here. I see. I think I saw Living is Shay reviews is here. Salute, welcome. And they get. I need to know what you thought about the infamous Will Smith smack. Yes. So the infamous Will Smith smack. What are your thoughts?
So I actually did a live that Monday, of course, conversations with angels every Monday, so that the next day after the Oscars, I had a whole show because I planned my themes out way in advance. So I know when I'm doing the topics that I'm covering through May. And so I totally changed. I had put out promo videos and everything. And so that Monday morning, I quickly did a promo video and I said, let's talk about the smack. And so there was 500 people in my live that night. And I always start off my lives with kind of giving my take and then the audience. So my take is, and this my take is not popular. I believe that first of all, he was definitely wrong for putting his hands on it. I'm not a proponent of violence, but I want to put the spotlight on Jada because Jada, had she been moving in her feminine space, she had been in her using feminine energy, she would have talked that man off the ledge. She would have looked
Mm-hmm.
over at him and put her hand on his arm. Honey, it's just a joke. Don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
And with that energy, she could have tamed the lion. There are women who ebb and flow in femininity that can tame lions. And so I feel that she bears a lot of the responsibility. Now, she's a tiny woman, but I just don't believe that Will would have gone up on that stage had he gotten the support that he needed from his wife. Because let's face it, that smack was about years of public humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
But who's the common denominator? It was Jada. She
Uh,
slept with his son's best friend who was living in their house. She had their daughter to write a letter to her dead ex-boyfriend. So it was just a cycle of over. And unfortunately, Chris Rock took the slap for the media. He took the slap for everyone that's been a part of their relationship. He took the slap for so many people, for his children. He took the slap for August. And so I think that he became unhinged years ago. And we
mm,
just happened to bear witness to the actual breaking of Will Smith. But I believe she could have controlled that from that
mm-hmm.
table. Because I
Right. So the truth is, Angel, this is the audience where it is not the unpopular opinion. This is very much
okay.
the opinion of where we are. I saw Living Ishe review says I agree 100%. Yes, yes, and Ja is amen all the way. And I'm sitting here going, you're right. Like, I like, honestly, I think she did the exact opposite of being in her feminine. She
Right.
wielded a mean girl, masculine kind of like control energy rather than a de-escalation energy that can come
Right.
from a woman, right? Like, a woman who
Right.
knows you and knows your triggers is going to put her hands on your leg and be like, babe, it's okay, right? Like, it's okay, it's
Yes.
don't do
I
this to
call that
yourself, because
I
it's putting
call that
him in that position, right?
right. I call that putting my lap out and letting him lay his head in my lap. because a man's head, that's where thought processes, that's where the ego lives. So when he is vulnerable, he has to be ready in his head first, and he has to tell himself, I can trust this woman to be vulnerable with her. And that's why men find it so difficult to be vulnerable with men, with women, because oftentimes we've thrown it back into their face, we've brought it up again in an argument. And so what we witnessed that night was she took his vulnerability, because many people don't know, I read Will's book, that his mother was abused for years, and because he was so young, he couldn't do anything, he couldn't fight back. So that was his opportunity, and she knew that. And
On
instead
Smash
of,
that night. They're having an outbreak that night.
So
Or a weekend at Michael Myers' house.
Oh,
what,
I would take the
uh-oh.
weekend and Michael
what
Myers.
was that?
So I think we've got a little bit of a mixed audio going on. We have another show, and I don't know if it went away.
Oh,
Okay, I think it might have. I think it might have. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
So we do have another show. So we are a little bit over our time, but it was such a great conversation, and we needed to hear the answer. So I do
Yes.
apologize. And but you know, it's all good, all good. We got a lot going on the Ranters Network. If you haven't done it yet, Angel, please make sure you check out all of our shows. And there
Absolutely.
are a lot of creative content creators that were on in the chat here. And those of you who are joining us
Thank
from
you.
Angels, make sure that you subscribe to this channel, which is Brown Girl Interrupting. Make sure you go to my blog up there and you are subscribing, you read my blogs, you look and watch me. Follow me on Instagram. I vlog my daily life. It can be interesting or it can be engaging. It's definitely going to make you laugh, if nothing else.
In her backyard. I see her in her backyard sometimes.
Well, yes, and
Or
you know,
behind your house.
my patio, my front, you know, but like it is my life. You can follow me, learn more about Brown Girl Interrupting and what makes me who I am, as well as you have to follow Angel. And tomorrow is another conversation with Angel. We got to hear the topic. What is everyone going to be in store for tomorrow on TikTok when they come and follow you and join your live?
So tomorrow, I am going to be discussing the lifestyle, BDSM. I will have 2 DOMs and a switch as part of my guest panel. And it's more about helping people truly understand the lifestyle of those that are a part of the BDSM community, but also to dispel a lot of myths. And people think because they've watched 50 Shades of Grey that they know all about it. That movie was so wrong. It was so wrong on so many levels. And so, with the research that I've done and the questions that I have, people will walk away from conversations with Angel knowing a lot more about BDSM.
I love it. And look, I'm sure you're going to have some folks from the Ranters Network coming to join you on TikTok because, come on now, y'all. I know you want to hear her. I know you want to see her. And now you know the topic is going to be interesting. If nothing else, you're walking away with some learnings and the voice and mellow personality and vibe of Angel.
Thank you, darling.
So thank you so much, Angel. Thank you for being here today and for sharing your knowledge and preaching some real good facts about things that we need to understand, and particularly our men need to understand. I love when we got our men in these conversations just as much as our women, because you know women are always talking about this stuff, but it takes two. It takes two in every relationship, and it can't be one person doing all the work ever. So please make sure you go follow Angel. Please make sure you follow me and subscribe to all of it. All of it. And be here again next week. So and I do have to plug in my co-host Better Minds Interrupting of Lovely Tea is we have our final episode of the season this Thursday at 9:00. Make sure you come and join us, Angel, at and it is for Better Minds Interrupting, where we were talking about spiritual healing and closing out our season. And then, of course, come join me next Sunday. I am so excited about my guest, and you might even know him because he's another TikTok stalking situation for me.
Oh, okay.
His name is Ikeji Ajori, and he is talking about, yes, there you know. He's great,
Yes.
amazing. Wrote a book all about what he wants in his future woman crush Wednesday, right? And
Yes.
you know, what is his soulmate going to be? And he's been writing a book all about it, and he's going to come and talk about his story and
That's
how he's going to
awesome.
find that soulmate. So
Wow.
join us next week at 9:00. And please make sure to subscribe, like, hit the bell, and be here again with us on Better Minds Interrupting at 9:00 on Thursday and next Sunday at 9:00. Thank you so much to our Ranters Network. Thank you to my amazing producer, Logic, for making the magic happen. And thank you so much, Angel, for your time, your knowledge, and your energy. It was a beautiful conversation, and I am so appreciative of you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. And so we are going to close it out. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night.
My world has slowly crumbled around me countless times, and every time I rebuild with the pieces I've been given to birth something so transformational and beautiful that no one else knew might exist before it was shown to them. These moments tend to coincide within my romantic path. The universe has been telling me to focus on the revolution and not romance. It has over time given me the tools, resilience, and light to turn my pain into power. And only now do I see that the key to this always resided in the love and knowing I had in myself, not from the external sources of family or men. The message I have been avoiding might be that my time in this world I had existed in was not to receive love, but to put it out there for others to see, feel, and heal through. Revolution before romance moves pain into power.